Hi, in this overview demo of BC, I'm going to start with just the look and feel of Business Central, how you access it, how you move around, what security is like, etc. And then walk you through these other areas, talking about how you can integrate to Business Central and use workflows and tailor it. Touch briefly on commercials, then come into financials and finish off with reporting. So to start off in Business Central, here we are in BC, and this is just an out-of-the-box Business Central here, and I'm landed in on a role center with business owner, and I'm just using a browser to access the system. So as long as I have a device that is internet capable and I have my Office 365 credentials to log in, then I can access my Business Central here. And the role center just determines what I see when I land into Business Central. These are cue cards here where we can set up thresholds for amber and red indications, etc. And we can come through into here and click through to get down to the underlying transactions, etc. If I logged in with a slightly different role center, I would be presented with a slightly different look. So if I'm logged in here as a read-only user, a team user, and you can see I get a slightly different role center. So the team user is allowed to see all of the records in Business Central, but they can also create things like timesheets, and they can do purchase requisitions and things along those lines. They can also do approvals, but they can't create orders or invoices or things along those lines. So that's the cut down version of a license. Because I'm in a browser, I can also open up Business Central in two slightly different places. So I could come into here, say, and look at vendors, whilst also being in another browser logged into Business Central in a different area or even in a different company. So if you've got multiple screens, it's quite easy to be in two different places at once. Coming back to the main screen here. So one thing to point out is as I go through this demo, everything you're looking at isn't necessarily what you must use and what you must see, because as a user here, I can come into personalization and I can hide certain elements that are not of any use to me, or bring other elements in here, and this applies throughout the entire system. So here I'm presented with a menu of the most commonly used things for the role I'm logged in as, but the entire menu is still behind the scenes here. So this is the entirety of Business Central, and you get all of this as part of the licensing. It just needs configuration to turn all of these elements on, which is why we like Business Central, because you can start with a small area of BC, and then as you grow and need more functionality, we can just turn on and configure the new areas and just keep going, and it's not increasing your license costs or anything along those lines. You're just developing into newer areas. But now and again you'll see me come up into here and do the search in here, and you can search for any other elements that aren't necessarily on your menu. You don't have to get your spelling bang on. You can go and find that particular item, and this here is an audit log, so you can tag fields that you want to track within the system, like credit limits or bank supplier bank details, and track those and see what was changed, what it was changed from, what it was changed to. You can also get notifications on that, or you could also overlay some of the built-in workflows there, that every time a new customer is added or a credit limit is changed, then it needs to go through a workflow approval process before that change is actually applied to the system as well. But we'll see that as we work our way through. So as I just come into here and take you through other various elements into here. So we've got list views here. You can, like quite a few ERP systems now, you can tailor this system out. So if the columns aren't in the right order, you can move them around, you can drag more columns in, you can remove columns out, etc. But there's not many systems where you actually go into the record itself. So we're now looking at the supplier record, where we can do the same thing. So we can turn on personalization again, and I can move these fields around and add more fields in, etc. So you can make the system be what you need it to be. Even coming down into entering in documents. So if I come into enter purchase invoice here, then I can also apply this personalization here as well, and I can tailor the header and I can tailor the columns presented here. So I am in a demo system here, so there's an awful lot of columns here, so don't get scared by the number of columns here. You could tailor it down, just have quantity and price, and that's it, if that's all you needed. But let's stay in here for a second. So we're entering in a purchase invoice record here. So the layout here is exactly the same for sales quotes, sales orders, sales invoices, sales returns, sales credit notes, purchase quotes, orders, invoices, purchase returns, and purchase credit notes. You're choosing your customer or your supplier up here, and then you're choosing and entering in your lines of information here. You can attach in scans of documents for, say, purchase invoices and things along those lines if you're just manually scanning in and attaching in. There are add-ins where you can automatically have email attachments that create purchase orders, proper OCR scanning, and have those automatically attached, but that's an add-in. We can touch on that a little later. But if we continue here and adding in our purchase invoice, so imagine this is exactly the same for a sales invoice. A line can either be a comment line, which is just text, just comment, a GL account or nominal ledger, depending on how you want to refer to this, where you'll just point through to the nominal ledger code, which we'll do in a second. A stock item, which may or may not be stocked. So it could be that you are tracking some of these items for inventory purposes, or you've just set them up as a service item, and people can quickly choose this, and then it's just going to set the correct general ledger codes and the correct VAT codes behind the scenes. Nobody has to kind of think. They just need to choose the right item here, and everything else is taken care of. Or you can choose a resource, which is a person, especially when you're doing jobs and things along those lines, or you can link back to the fixed asset module and add new costs onto fixed assets, or you can use charge items, which is for like landed costs. When you're getting goods from abroad, you're booking the goods in at the price you ordered them for, and then later on you'll get a purchase invoice for freight and duty. If you use the item charge here, you can then spread that freight and duty cost across a receipt and say share it based on the items that received, or the weight, or the volume, or you can just enter values in, and that will then retrospectively increase the costs of those stock items, so you're getting the correct valuation of your stock items. But if I just choose one here, that is GL code, so I just need to type in my amount, pick up rent expense here, pop in an amount, and go through and pop in a value. Now it could be that this rent expense is across multiple months, so it could be that it's across 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and I need to do accruals and prepayments. Well, I can do that whilst I'm entering this in. So you can create as many deferral codes as you want and determine how to share this out. And let's just say it's an expense over 3 months, and it'll go ahead and, based on the rules of that deferral code, it will then start deferring these amounts over the next 3 months. Based on how I've set that up. So I've got that as either days per period, straight line, equal per period, or I can just literally type the amounts in. That will then post into a deferral control and take the amount out automatically each month. And at any point in time, I can run a report to say, give me the balance of that deferral control on that day. And it will list out all the invoices that make up the deferral control. So my accruals and prepayments and deferred income are all taken care of. If I had a stock item here, then as I choose that, maybe there's locations involved. So you can create as many locations as you want, and they can either be physical ones or virtual ones, and you can create locations within locations as well for bins and shelves. And you can get very prescriptive about the warehousing. So you can either have it very relaxed and just book an item into a warehouse. You don't really care where it goes in the warehouse, you just know it's there. And then when it comes to receipt, you just go find it, or you can be very, very granular and say, okay, we need to book it into the receipting area, and then from the receipting area, we need to book it in properly and put it away on the correct shelf allocated for this item. And then when it comes to dispatching it, you generate picking notes, and people go and, they'll know which shelf to go to. They can pick it, they can bring it into the dispatch area, and then dispatch, amalgamate it all together and stick it on the lorry. Or you can have it set for each individual warehouse anywhere between those two extremes, either very relaxed or very, very detailed. But just along the side here, we have our first look at the analysis, the ultimate analysis within Business Central of being able to see what you did across what are called different dimensions. So we have dimensions set up here. So think, cost center departments, those kind of things, salespeople, regions, whatever it needs to be. And you can create as many of these as you want to. And you can create as many sort of values within these as you want. And you can retire choices going forward. So if the central department was no longer applicable, we can block it for future choices, but we have all of our history in the past. You can tag these dimensions to stock items, you can tag them to suppliers and customers, you can tag them to nominal codes. So, this one has automatically populated these three based on that choice of item. Or you can have people filling them in, funds codes for people with charities and SOFA codes and things. So all of the analysis is happening at a transactional level. And then when we look at reporting later on, you can slice and dice this data at a transactional level depending on how these things were coded. So there's multiple ways we can get the information in here. We've done small modifications to help people get information in here, so they're not having to choose lots and lots of information if they need lots and lots of information. So this can be as detailed or as granular or as onerous or as mandatory or as defaulted as you want it to be. And then you can pop all of that information in, and then when you're ready to post, we notice here that it's checking that already exists for that vendor, that code. So I'm just going to need to enter a different code in here. When you come to post, you can either preview posting or post through and commit it to the system. And the system will check all of the rules and make sure that these dimensions are the correct ones for this item, depending on how you set it up, that when it gets posted through to the nominal account, are you breaching any rules at the nominal area, that you're incorrectly posting dimensions into the wrong account and things along those lines. If for some reason perhaps this purchase invoice was in dispute, I can just save it essentially, but not post it. And then it sits in my purchase invoices. I'm still in the vendor here. I can see links through here to invoices I've got in progress. So these are all the invoices that are not yet committed into the system, are obviously on the system, but until I've hit post, it won't go through to the system, through to the nominal ledger. And we can see that information there as well, and I can pick it up later when someone has resolved the dispute and then post it through or made the corrections or whatever it is I need to do. So that's kind of getting around the system, a quick look at moving around and putting information in. What I'm allowed to do in terms of security is very, very granular. So you might have users that can see customers but can't edit customers, can't see the general ledger or whatever it is. If there's any sort of set of rules in terms of security, you can set those up behind the scenes and have people being able to do various options but not other options as well. And just to finish off how to access and use Business Central, if I just bring this over here. So this is my iPhone. We can see we have a Business Central application there. I can open that up and I'm looking at exactly the same role center as we're looking at within the browser here. And we can access the information here. We can come down here and notice I've got 2 requests to approve here. So I can click on that, go into there, look at the fact that I've got something to approve here, open up the record. So wherever I am, I can sort of access this and approve it or reject it or delegate it or send comments back to the person. So it's not just a read only view of things in here. I can actually do some processing within my Business Central. I'll see everything that's going on, so customer records here, who owes what, etc., and drill into those items as well and process that way. Come down and take a look at what's made up of the balance, etc. So as again, just to emphasize, wherever I am, as long as I have an internet access and a device capable of connecting in and logging in, I can access and use my Business Central anywhere.